Listen properly.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Voetsak Files, the show that pokes the bear, rattles the cage, and says what others are too scared to say. I have to start this episode on a somber note. It's something incoming Ambassador Brent Bozell also touched on in his 7th hearing, the barbaric farm attacks ravaging this country. My deepest condolences to the latest victims of these savages, likely inspired by empty cult Julius Malema's moronic "kill the Boer" chant. Roulé Ace and Stefan Botha were subjected to unimaginable horror, savages laughing as they repeatedly poured boiling water over their heads and faces, laughing while they screamed in agony. So let's just stop pretending. Let's just call them what they are. Savages. Okay, now that we have exposed another EFF-inspired attack, I need to explain myself. I know I promised to drop that expose today, the one about the pre-owned car industry and how you're getting ripped off. However, something big just happened. Something so crucial, especially for South Africa, that I had to hit pause on that episode and bring you this breaking development instead. Because what unfolded in Washington on the 23rd of October will shake the very foundation of South Africa's foreign relations. I'm talking about the US Senate hearings where Brent Bozell, yes, the man set to become America's new ambassador to South Africa, made it crystal clear that the era of polite diplomacy is over. What he said and the message behind it will have consequences far beyond the walls of Parliament or the Union buildings. So, that's why we will instead, in this week's episode, be discussing the storm that is now properly brewing in US-South Africa relations. Or shall I say the coming reckoning that is Ambassador Brent Bozell. Now, before we get into it, let me just say this. You're probably asking yourself, okay, but what makes me so special? After all, there are plenty of YouTube channels that have already covered this topic. So, what makes mine different? Well, I'll tell you. I'm not some self-declared expert sitting behind a keyboard, but I'd say 8 years working behind the fortress-like walls of the US Embassy in Pretoria kind of makes me better qualified than most so-called experts. And even though I'm not an expert, I can promise you I know a lot more than most people claim to know. The only other YouTube channel I can think of that can claim the same is maybe Colonel Chris Wyatt. Based on my insider experience, I can tell you more accurately what comes next. But before we dive into this explosive subject, and before we hand out today's Empty Skull Award, here's a quick reminder. I share a short excerpt from one of my books in every episode. If it leaves you wanting more, you can order a digital copy of either book by simply emailing me at author.skalk@gmail.com. They're 75 Rand each. That's, listen properly, 200 Rand less than retail, or 125 Rand for both. That's a full 400 Rand less than retail. And remember, every cent goes to the animal charity I support, which feeds and cares for a colony of feral fur babies who are totally dependent on human compassion to survive. You'll soon be able to grab this is not planned, I promise you. Okay. Introduce yourself. This is Jespo. He's our oldest cat. He's been with us for 12 years. Okay, Jespo, thank you for the introduction. Tell the people this wasn't planned. You just bombed my episode. But thank you very much. He's purring, and goodbye. You'll soon be able to grab the digital copies plus official Voetsak Files merchandise once my new website is up and running, But for now, we'll have to do it the old school way. Email me, tell me which copy you want, and I'll send you an invoice with the EFT details. A special thanks to Mervyn Stemmet for his order. Now then, it's time to award the Empty Skull Award to the biggest empty skull who has truly outdone themselves in recent events. So, without further ado, the Empty Skull Award goes to none other than Naledi Pandor. She earned this prestigious award by boldly suggesting that South Africa should reject US Ambassador Brent Bozel's credentials. Congratulations, Naledi. You've finally proven that Empty Skull isn't just a nickname. For you, it's a lifestyle. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, I wanted to thank you for the great response on the last episode. We got more than 100 comments on the last episode, and I wish I could show them all. But I've chosen a few that really stood out. If you'd rather jump straight to the main story, feel free, but I promise these are worth sticking around for. So let's check them out. Craig Hilton said, remember the ANC is a terrorist organization. Birds of a feather flock together. Belinda Barnett said, thank you for covering this. My husband served with the Israeli border police from 94 to 95. Jacob Katz spoke about Israel not knowing about the planned attack in a podcast. He basically said that the security services picked up on some chatter, but they were too busy watching Hezbollah and the internal issues in Israel. Lindy Lambus said, great show as usual, thank you. I agree with you 100% that the Empty Skull Award should go to none other than Lucifer Lessufi. Excellent. Another useless, corrupt, incompetent ANC cadre. Thank you for helping with food for the furries. Cats are the best and deserving of love and care. Well, I can't disagree with you there, Lindy. Alan Gill said, since 2006, Palestinians has been entering South Africa and making periodic visits to a courthouse in Mount Edgecombe. Ma Baker, a regular, said, yes, of course the ANC knew about this attack before it happened. Apart from all the obvious evidence to prove this, Squirrel clearly doesn't give a fig about his own people and their suffering, because there's no financial reward. Pierre Moret said the ANC have come up with a new form of terrorism, terrorizing South African citizens with corruption, plundering, cadre deployment, BEE, Bella, political killings, NHI, race laws galore, EWC and criminal cartels who have infiltrated the justice system and police. Believe me, the US will find out if the ANC had prior knowledge of this attack, and then, while Pierre, here's the shocker. Back by my 8 years inside the US Embassy, I'll bet my fragile reputation on this. They already know. They're just waiting for the perfect moment to confirm it. Skalk Loubser said, I love the fact that you are feeding the cats. So little gets done for them. This is a great project that you are launching. I rescued 7 and they were like children. Well, Skalk, sounds weird as if I'm talking to myself. But I'm so happy to hear that there are more crazy cat lovers out there like me. And, by the way, for anyone wondering, I love dogs too. Our Jack Russell was rescued about 11 years ago. Can definitely attest to that. Brenda Kruger said, Margaret Thatcher warned F.L. de Klerk not to hand over the Nationalist Party to the ANC government. And fortunately, she was correct. Michelle Banjan said, I hope the ANC falls. In my opinion, they did know. Another thing, we must demand a new flag. This flag represents communism, ANC ideology, and it's an embarrassment to South Africa. Well, Michelle, I'm actually really glad you brought up the flag. Look, it's no secret that I've never been very fond of it. I still remember when I was lieutenant in the Pretoria Flying Squad, the day that new flag was raised and declared the flag of the new South Africa. I just couldn't accept it then, and honestly, I never have. But let me be clear, I don't disrespect the people who do feel proud of it. If it means something to them, if they wave it at Springbok matches with genuine pride, good for them. I actually respect that. It's just, for me, it's always carried a different meaning. Anyway, enough said. Here's the expert about the flag from my first book, Fragile. Let's make that the excerpt for this episode.
I have always admired the proud way in which the Marines at the embassy hoisted and saluted the American flag. It was clear, for them, it wasn't merely a daily task, it was an honor. In extreme contrast, by the time I left the South African Police Service, even prisoners tasked with garden and cleaning duties had started hoisting the South African flag at the police station. No saluting or any show of respect. None. Just get the damn thing up there and get it done. Some of those flags looked sadly dilapidated, dirty, faded, torn. To be honest, it was one of the many things that didn't bother me that much by then. Probably also because, I must admit, I never really felt anything for our national flag. When I look at it, I see too much of the African National Congress flag in it. I don't know how Frederick Brownell, who designed it, ever considered that it would realize the pipe dream of uniting a very divided nation and having every citizen proudly adopt it as their own. Even today, when I look at it, I can't help but see it being dominated by the colors of the ANC flag, making up 2/3 of it to be more precise.
Okay, so let me know what you thought of that. Back to the comments. Stephen de Villiers said the ANC is a terrorist organization. It fits that they would be complicit in their terror partners' atrocities. Ralph Geldenhuys said it's alleged by Justin Lewis, an attorney involved in the case, that South Africa prepared the case against Israel before the Hamas attack. Well, Ralph, it's not the first that I've heard that before. And that in itself, I would say, is telling. Yvette van Dorp said, I'm ashamed to think that Pandor can think that Hamas or any person that were complicit on 7 October were freedom fighters. Futsak, that demonic mindset is evil, and we as Christians detest this action. Most South Africans love Israel and stand by them. Jerome Coetzee said, a government that is not godly, what can I say? What about the genocide here in South Africa? The whole government needs to be charged for war crimes, genocide and corruption. Rainier Scholten said, considering Pandor, a Muslim convert, and her relationship with Iran, Hamas and Hezbollah, as well as the current DG of DIRCO, a Muslim and a supporter of Iran, the probability of South Africa being in the know of the October 7 attack is very high. Ron Horton said, the smoking gun for me was the speed at which charges were brought before the ICJ. A case such as this should normally take many months to prepare for. I suspect preparations were in place before the attack took place. Well, Ron, I agree. I actually have proof of how they prepared for this case. Here it is. Grant Builders said, this is in the hands of Mossad now. They never forget, and they never miss. Well, Grant, you nailed it with that comment. Michelle Krause said, cute kitten. Well, Michelle, I'm honestly so happy you noticed little Mario. There's actually a bit of a story behind him. He was rescued in Danville, that's a suburb here in Pretoria, by someone who found him living among vagrants. And here's the shocking part. That same person had seen those savages killing and eating them. So, when they spotted Mario, they didn't hesitate. They stepped in and saved him before the same could happen to him. Thomas Besuidenhout said, great show, bro. Very interesting and revealing content. ANC stands for absolutely no clue. Share, 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 guys. Let this content go viral. Well, Thomas, with followers like you, who can complain? I appreciate it. Pinard Nodea said, ANC still have the same terrorist DNA, evident by their callous reaction to gruesome farm attacks. And like Hamas, ANC is a proxy for Iran against Israel. Iran funds ANC like they do Hamas. What about the evident genocide in Ukraine? No, there the ANC is neutral. Ramaphosa said Russia is an old and trusted friend. All right, that's as far as the comments go for today. But please remember, I read every single one, and I really appreciate you taking your precious time to share your thoughts. So, please keep them coming. Now, at last you'll say, let's get into today's episode. So, nearly 25,000 of you watched my episode, Brent Bozell, The Coming Reckoning. Well, the reckoning just got a whole lot closer. What I'm about to share will shock, excite, and maybe even unsettle you. On the 23rd of October, Brent Bozell at long last appeared before the US Senate Foreign Relations Committee for his nomination hearing. That testimony wasn't polite diplomatic formality. It was a shot across the bow of South Africa's foreign policy establishment. Behind his courteous tone was a clear message. Washington's patience has run out. Bozell painted a picture of a country in moral and political decline, corruption unchecked, property rights under threat, citizens unsafe, and leaders befriending global pariahs. He warned that South Africa's due strategic shift towards Russia, China, and Iran will not go unanswered.
I come before you at a challenging moment for U.S.-South Africa relations. The President has expressed serious concerns about South Africa that for too long have been unaddressed. When people and businesses in South Africa believe their private property rights are at risk, when many South Africans feel unsafe in their homes, when rampant corruption and unfair business practices hold back the South African economy, and when South African politicians greet as friends those who seek to destabilize the world's peace and security, then common ground between our two countries feels harder to find.
He warned that South Africa's due strategic drift toward Russia, China, and Iran will not go unanswered.
I will work on the following priorities. I will communicate our objections to South Africa's geostrategic drift from non-alignment toward our competitors, including Russia, China, and Iran.
Most strikingly, he pledged to pressure Pretoria to abandon its support for the ICJ case against Israel.
I'll press South Africa to end proceedings against Israel before the International Court of Justice and to pressure the International Criminal Court prosecutor to discontinue this lawfare.
To oppose expropriation without compensation.
I will support the President's call for the South African government to rescind its support for the expropriation of private property without compensation.
And to open a path to U.S. refuge for targeted Afrikaner families.
I will advance the President's invitation to Afrikaners who wish to flee unjust racial discrimination.
Well, whether you agree or not, that promise alone would ignite fury among ANC comrades. Bozell's message was unmistakable. The era of polite diplomacy, it is over. Once confirmed, America's new ambassador will arrive not as a friend bearing goodwill, but as a messenger of consequence, sent to confront a regime that has aligned itself with America's enemies. Trump speak, just torch the old playbook. He called out the blind eye to rural bloodshed and said this plainly. When people live in fear on their own land, something is deeply wrong. When Bozell was pushed on domestic U.S. politics by a socialist Democratic senator, his answer was clinical. My personal views are irrelevant. I execute the President's directives. In other words, mission first. This isn't diplomacy as usual. This is a reckoning. A veteran conservative who, decades ago, warned about ANC armed propaganda. Bozell now returns as Trump's hammer, armed with visas, leverage, and a very clear mandate. The era of appeasement is over. The US-South African relationship is about to change, and South Africa won't like what's coming. In my previous episode, I told you exactly this. South Africa didn't dodge a bullet when Joel Pollak didn't get the post, because the bullet has been replaced by a guided missile named Brent Bozell. I said then, this is not business as usual in diplomacy. This is the shadow of America about to fall over South Africa. The Senate hearing just proved it. For those of you that missed my episode about Brent Bozell about 2 months ago, here's just a summary of who our next US ambassador is. He's not a career diplomat or a technocrat. He's a culture warrior. Founder of the Media Research Center in 1987, a relentless critic of left-wing media bias, an outspoken supporter of President Donald Trump. After Trump returned to the White House in 2025, Bozell publicly thanked him for pardoning his son for January 6 charges. He's staunchly pro-Israel and, yes, once declared he was proud to join the coalition against ANC terrorism back in the 1980s. If you think that history won't color his approach in Pretoria, think again. Bottom line, once confirmed, you will not arrive with an olive branch. You will arrive with a hammer. In the coming reckoning, I warned that Washington would tire of Pretoria's double game with Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran. Pressure would mount to drop the ICJ case against Israel. And the US footprint here would shrink hard. After Bozell's hearing, every one of these points is in play. Warnings weren't alarmism. They were advance notice. So, what happens next, you probably want to know. And when will Bozell likely land? Here's the road from hearing to Pretoria in plain English. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee will vote to send the nomination forward. Then a full Senate confirmation. And with the Republicans holding the majority, expect a straightforward floor vote. Then the swearing in and travel. After confirmation and formalities, Bozell will head to South Africa and present his credentials. My projection, with momentum now behind him, expect a arrival around early 2026. Mark it down. That is when the tone of this relationship will change from terse to tangible. Now, for the recommendations Bozell is likely to take seriously. I've said this before, and now it matters more than ever. There is a blueprint on the table. It's the one that I sent to Ambassador Bozell, and one that I believe he will take seriously. My recommendations were, firstly, close the US consulate in Johannesburg. Massive running costs, a lightning rod for controversy, and diminishing strategic return for the US. Secondly, close the US consulate in Durban. Their planned relocation to premium Umhlanga real estate makes no sense in this climate. The overheads are indefensible. Thirdly, close down remaining US aid operations and the big aid umbrellas like PEPFAR, Power Africa, CDC projects and more. If Pretoria aligns with US adversaries, don't expect US taxpayers to keep footing the bill. Fourth, and this one to me is personally very important, withdraw the US Peace Corps presence. Stop sending idealistic young Americans into violent, high-risk, crime-infested townships where sentiment toward the US is hostile. So, what will remain is a lean presence. The embassy in Pretoria plus one single consulate in Cape Town, the most functional metro. Closest to Simonstown Naval Base, one of the world's crucial maritime choke points. If Beijing or Moscow start sniffing around there, Washington will treat it as a red line. Expect scholarship programs to be on the chopping block following a hard review of the Fulbright and Mandela Washington Fellowship. Goodwill programs don't survive when goodwill is not reciprocated. Let me be clear, this downsizing will bite. It will cut South Africa down to size and send a simple message. Alignment has consequences. And be sure that Ambassador Bozell will exploit flashpoints such as the MTN Iran cell scandal as US prosecutors dig into Iranian links, the dumbass SANDF general's visit to Tehran, reckless signaling with real costs, the threatened renaming of Santon Drive to Leila Khaled Drive. Glorifying a terrorist will sever what little is left of goodwill. This kind of behavior will no longer be tolerated. Just have a look at this brain-dead idiot.
We must, working together, ensure that that campaign of the city of Johannesburg of renaming Santon Drive into Leila Khaled happens in our lifetime. It has to happen because we want the United States of America's embassy to change their letterheads. When they have their letterheads, they must say United States of America, number 1, Leila Khaled Drive in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, because we are sending a message. They cannot dominate us and tell us what to do. It must be in their face. It must be in their computers. It must be in their letterheads.
No idea who the hell. She's a whack job.
And remember, these aren't side stories. They're ammunition. And Bozell will load them into Washington's arsenal, squarely aimed at Pretoria. So, you can be sure of a new reality once Brent Bozell becomes ambassador, and prepare for a diplomatic winter. Consulates closing, Peace Corps departing, remaining aid drying up, Cape Waters and Simonstown shifting from background to frontline in a new great power contest. South Africa thought it dodged a bullet when Joel Pollard didn't get the job. What's coming is far more precise and far more potent. Of course, with Brent Bozell, South Africa will not be dealing with a conventional diplomat. It will be dealing with a man tasked to cut away the rotten parts of a toxic relationship, and to do it fast. Take a breath, or a whiskey, preferably a proper American bourbon. Let that sink in. Now, after I released my episode about Brent Bozell and the coming reckoning, I had more than one empty skull telling me, oh, well, we should just reject Bozell's credentials. Just like that, eh? Well, for all those brave idioten, let me try and explain this in plain language. So plain, even brain-dead EFF supporters might just understand. Picture this. Before some red beret empty skull takes it literally, no, I'm not going to draw you a little picture. But anyway, picture this. Pretoria wakes up to the headline. South Africa rejects Brent Bozell's credentials. Diplomatic term? Withholding agreement. Plain South African? A middle finger wrapped in a press release. And Washington? Well, they don't do quiet diplomacy. They do payback with interest. Hours later, the White House releases one of those icy statements. The US regrets South Africa's decision and will review the bilateral relationship. Translation: brace yourself. Aid freezes, visas tighten. Intelligence sharing gone. All remaining cooperation dead. Doesn't drop it, nosedives. By lunch, Woolies is sticking market volatility tags on abos, while Durko is still monitoring the situation. Fox News runs. South Africa chooses terror friends over America. Republicans call for sanctions. Senators snarl. If they want Iran and Russia, let them have them. Suddenly our so-called global south buddies step back. Nobody wants to stand next to the guy who just angered the world's mightiest nation. And just when you think they cannot possibly be that idiotic, here comes Naledi Pandor, match in hand, ready to toss it straight into the fuel drum. This is the asylum escapee who made the congratulatory phone call to Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, barely 10 days after more than 1,000 Israelis were butchered, smiling like she's just scored diplomatic gold. And now she's the one concerned about Brent Bozell's nomination, warning that his appointment might harm relations. Give me a freaking break. When the very person who rolled out the red carpet for Hamas starts preaching about diplomacy, you know exactly what message these clowns are sending. And it's not one of friendship, but one of confrontation. Idiots like Pandor are stoking the fire, giving the ANC just enough false confidence to pick up a fight it will lose, and lose devastatingly. And if this government ever dares to reject Bozell's credentials, her fingerprints will be all over the explosion that follows. Days later, Washington downgrades the mission. South Africa's dirty little secrets suddenly explode into the open. Corruption, Chinese arms deals, Iranian money trails, and the CIA finally confirms what everyone suspected. Pandor and the government knew about the Hamas attack well in advance, and instead of warning anyone, they looked the other way, even cheering their terrorist buddies as the massacre unfolded. Every skeleton in the ANC's closet dragged out and bleached in the sun. The US Treasury eats back with targeted measures. Ministers' bank accounts frozen. Stolen tax money anyway. Travel visas revoked, and some comrades who held down with the West are suddenly whispering, "Can we please have Ambassador Bozell back?" Tourism tanks. Exports nosedive. South Africa earns a new title, Hostile State. From Rainbow Nation to Rogue Nation. In one spectacular act of arrogance, Turco babbles about constructive engagement, but we're left counting the economic ashes. And President Trump shrugs, smirks, and says, they've made their choice. Let them live with it. Of course, this time, there won't be bailouts or second chances. Just isolation, inflation, and humiliation. My fellow pot stirrers, that is what happens when arrogance meets reality, and reality doesn't blink. So what I'm spelling out here is that I really cannot imagine Durko being that idiotic, even with the permanent dumbass expression Lamola always seemed to have. So I say South Africa should enjoy the calm while it lasts, because the storm will hit. That's as certain as Hurricane Melissa hitting Jamaica. Only difference, Brent Bozell's impact on South Africa might be far more devastating than Melissa ever was to Jamaica. Well, that's it for this week. Tell me what you think in the comments. I really want to hear your views, and I'll feature the best ones in the next episode. And please, don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe, so this channel can keep growing. And if you really enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a member. You'll be supporting a worthy cause while keeping the pot well and truly stirred. But until next time, stay safe and cheers.